Hi everybody, so this is a video talking about Certificate of Lawfulness. If you've been keeping up with some of the projects I've been doing recently, you might have caught wind of one of them that I spoke about around applying for Certificate of Lawfulness. So first of all, in this video, I'm going to talk through an actual example of what I bought and how long it's taken and all the kind of the processes that I've had to go through to actually get a certificate of lawfulness, and then what do I do with it. So but before I begin with this, let me give you a top line definition of what this certificate of lawfulness is and why it's needed. So in a nutshell, certificate of lawfulness is a piece of paper that the council will come and give you, the planning department from the council more specifically, will come and give you to sign off on any non-planning permission approved project that may have been done in the past. So give you an example, in this particular scenario, this is a block of flats that used to be a hotel, an old hotel. So, and it was converted in 1980s, so almost 30 years ago. And at that time, the planning rules weren't as strict as they were before, as they are now. And as such, they would have applied for planning to convert to residential, and that's about it. No definition of how many units and etc. etc. So a certificate of lawfulness now is the council or the planning officer's way. And also that's the most important thing, is satisfies the bank that then what they're lending against is actually planning approved, and they're not going to get stung if it happens to be that you can't pay, they have to repossess, they've lent on a particular asset that they thought was planning approved but isn't, and then now the value is completely different to what they're lending. So certificate of lawfulness gives them, the lenders, this kind of cushion that the asset that they're lending against is actually planning permission approved retrospectively. So this is what a certificate of lawfulness is, and so the key here is why do we need it, and what does it do, and how do you get one. So I'll walk you through an example I've just literally in the process of completing now. So this was a block of flats that I bought containing 3 individual flats. So on the day of purchase, I mean, having said that, before I purchased it, I realized that there is a issue with the planning certification on this block. So there are currently 3 flats in it, so 2 bedrooms and one bedroom flat. The two bedrooms are in the basement, and the first floor, ground floor, has got the 1 bed. During the due diligence when I was buying the place, I realized that actually there is an issue. It is a defective issue here around the planning that's been approved on this block. In effect, they've approved planning for the basement and the first floor, but not the ground floor. So that just basically means you've only got 2 flats that's got planning permission, not the third one. The challenge is, to buy in that instance, you're not going to get lenders to lend on it because of the reasons I gave earlier on during this video around the ability for them to be able to recoup their money if they need to. But if there's no planning permission approved, their value drops and then they don't get their money back. So most lenders, some bridges will do it, but with a lot of caveats to it. So they'll put charges against your home or other things. So if they can't get their money back, they'll go after you in other ways. So you can get finance, but it's going to be quite expensive and quite high risk. So in this scenario, it was 3 flats. I bought it at 330,000. And I think obviously the seller realized when I was raising all these questions that this was a challenge that he also was aware of, but was trying to kind of go all around the houses to say there was no problem. So that's how we managed to drop the price significantly from his original asking price. To purchase it, I had to purchase it by cash. I chose to purchase it cash because I didn't want the hassle and the time, because you don't know sometimes with these things how long it actually takes. But lucky enough, I'd done my due diligence. I'd actually put all of the wheels in motion to understand how long has it been rented, what was the issue with it, what has already been approved, do I have certification, do I have some evidence for it and stuff. So I'll walk you through some of the key points that I've written here, and then hopefully that'll make a lot of sense. So, like I said, it's free flats on purchase. It was purchased in March 2021. Now, the problem was, during the due diligence stage, the planning to convert was only approved for 2 rather than 3. That means the lenders won't lend, and as such, I had to then buy it with cash rather than a mortgage. I could have chosen, like I said, the bridging, but to be fair, on average, to bridge that sort of money, you're looking at an extra 10 grand. It's not the end of the world, but you know what, that's 10 grand for 6 months. But if then it rolls up, then you're looking at another more, a few £1,000 more. Lucky enough, if you can afford it to buy it outright or with investor money, you can actually then cut this extra cost and use that money to renovate the actual block, which is what I did. So the process of applying for Certificate of Lawfulness is basically as follows. First, you have to meet certain criteria. One of the key one here is, were these flats in that present state, or has been in that present state, i.e. residential use, for the last 4 years? And if they have, do you have proof of that occupancy in that state for the last 4 years? Then there's a site visit that the council, the planning officer, will come and actually check these 3 flats. You also then apply, you submit a Certificate of Lawfulness of planning on the planning portal, which then includes a site location. You can buy those OSB's kind of site location map for about a tenner, which just shows where the site of the actual block is. In addition to that, you also have to submit floor plans of the actual block itself. So in my case, 3 flats, garden, front garden, etc., etc. So these were the kind of requirements I had to meet. In terms of burden of proof, the burden of proof is very much on me, on you, or on the applicant. And what I mean by that is you need to be able to prove to the council that these flats or this block or this whatever project you're doing that you're looking to get the Certificate of Lawfulness. Remember, this is backward looking. You're almost saying to the council, look, give me a Certificate of Lawfulness because in the past this block, this house, this extension, whatever it was done without planning, but look at it now, it meets all the criteria, whatever the criteria of your project is. So you have to be able to kind of show the evidence. In my case, the evidence that we submitted were things like a history of planning. So before I bought the place and agreed to complete, I'd already done a lot of this due diligence. So my advice to you is always to do your due diligence first. Really understand what the gap is, so what evidence already there, what evidence you need to meet, and then what's the gap, and can you meet that gap? If you can't meet that gap, potentially either you renegotiate the price or you walk away, because you're not going to be able to remortgage that property out. So in my case, I'd done a lot of the history of the planning that had already been approved. So I downloaded all of these. I knew where the gap was, which is that 1 flat. What planning had been granted and declined as well. I mean, there was some other planning that did approve, asked for and never did, because it was a hotel and it was 30 years ago. So it was good, and you can get that on the planning portal. So you could go into your planning portal, government website, type in the postcode and the address, and then a lot of the stuff. It's free, available information that you can actually download for yourself. The other thing that I'd already asked for during the due diligence stage prior to completion was evidence of all tenancy agreements. So whilst I was buying it, there was a legal pack. Part of the legal pack, there was one tenancy agreement for the first floor flat, which is one of the mountains that's already got planning permission, and that tenancy was 10 years old. So that in itself was a bit of an issue, because I didn't want to buy a house that had a tenancy that was 10 years old. So I asked the seller to, in the end, create a new tenancy agreement for 6 months on the new terms and the new legalities. But that aside, the old tenancy agreement of 10 years was really helpful, because that also showed that for that flat, for example, it was already there 10 years ago and it was being used. Second one was the basement flat. Again, was a council owned or council ran and paid for property. So whilst I didn't have the actual tenancy agreements, but I was told and I was certified by the agents that it was a universal credit type of tenant that was in there for the last 5 years. So that reassured me a lot, because it could show me the rent payment that was coming from universal credit to the agency, and then the agency to the landlord. And that was the same case also, lucky enough, with the ground floor flat, the 1-bedroom flat, the one that was missing the planning. So had all of that tenancy piece of evidence that I could actually use to reference to say that these 3 flats had been in occupancy for those residential reasons for the last 4 years. So that really gave me a big sight of relief to proceed. The other evidence that I also managed to get was in that area there were selective licensing rules, and that was introduced in 2010. And funny enough, on that 2010 license, it actually shows all 3 flats in there being granted a license. So that was another big tick box for me on the evidence front. So I could show the planning officer that their own council gave a selective license. So that was a big, another big one. The other ones that I relied on was the council tax bills, which I was able to ask the planning officer herself to actually check, because I'd known by then that there were 3 flats occupied for the last 10 years in those residential. So I was able to rely on that council tax different account numbers to prove that it's been there for the last 4 years. And the last thing was utility bills. So as many utility bills that I was able to get access to, and even when people had left and the flat was vacant, we were able to trace, for example, EDF or Southern Water, and then contact them and try to see how old these accounts were. And some they weren't willing to give. Some they were happy to give. We had some key cards as well, so we were able to establish quite a lot of evidential proof that these 3 flats had been in occupancy as a residential unit for the last 4 years, if not more. In terms of the application, so that was the evidence pool. I mean, as you can see, there was a lot of evidence. My big plea to you guys is, if you are buying something with defective planning, you really need to understand the process that you need for certificate of lawfulness. It's all detailed in whatever council you're doing. Go type in on Google certificate of lawfulness, and then the council, let's say Lambeth or Lewisham or Thanet or Essex or whatever you want, and then they will come up with their own website, which is a planning portal website, and within that they will give you a list of things that you're applying for. Certificate of lawfulness will be one of them. Full planning, for example, is the other one. Once you get that, then you read the detail of that, those rules and what evidence you need to be able to submit. So do that before you commit to complete. Otherwise, what you don't want to do is to buy something with no planning or not a lot of full planning, and then you're going to struggle to refinance. So in terms of the next sections, what I'll talk about now is the application, the cost and timelines, the outcomes, and also then what do I do? How do I make money out of this? So in terms of the application, in total, it took in the end 12 weeks, although the stated time is 8 weeks, which is what the council has from the time that they accept your application. And there was a lot of dilly-dallying around before they accepted it. They were saying, oh, this was not there, that evidence was missing. But so in the end, it probably took 12, 13 weeks, because it took 2 or 3 weeks for them to accept the actual application. But from the time that they accept the application and they work on it, they've got 8 weeks to basically reach their conclusion. In my case, they took 12 weeks. So they, at the 8th week, they emailed me, or the planning lady emailed me, saying, oh, can I get 2 weeks extension? Which I thought, fine, I'll give you another 2 weeks. But then it started to slide. So by the time end of third week, I had not heard anything. I served them a legal letter from our solicitors to say, you've got to respond immediately, otherwise, we will take this to court. And then lucky enough, on the 12th week, so 1 week later, she came back and actually approved and served us the certificate of full certificate of lawfulness for all 3 flats, finally. So that was really good news. But it was quite stressful, because she kept on going COVID delays, and then she said, no, that she has to go through the legal department, making loads of excuses, to be fair, if I'm being honest. But she got a bit of time extra, and in the end, I got the certificate of lawfulness that I was looking for. In terms of cost, ballpark, it cost me about £1,000, so it's about £400 for the application. I submitted it myself. The floor plans cost me about £700. So all in is around £1,000 to actually get this done. So that was the application cost and timelines. The outcomes, as I said, eventually I received the certificate of lawfulness, and that was received on the 23rd of July 2021. So what we're talking about, about 2 weeks ago now. And since then, since getting the certificate of lawfulness, you will, as you those who follow me quite regularly, you will know that I am very much about, from yesterday onward, we start working and move these projects on. So since then, in 2 weeks, we've been able to apply for a refinance on all 3 flats. I've already done 2 valuations or surveys rather, and I've had the valuation come back already. The title splittings are already being worked on by my usual solicitor team. It's ready for completion, and the idea is now, to split. So I should have said that at the start as well. As you know, this is a title splitting part of a project as well. So the block was already on a 1 freehold. So now at the time of refinance, I'm splitting this freehold into 3 leases, which is already happening in the background. So on the day of completion with these 3 lenders, the idea, or 2 lenders actually, one of them is taking 2 flats, the other one's taking 1. The idea being that they will actually get all 3 flats will get 125-year lease and be able to be refinanced away from my cash, basically. So I'll be able to pull more of my cash out. As we speak now, we're on the 10th of August. I've had 2 flats revalued. So the first flat, flat 1, which is the 2-bedroom first floor flat, has been revalued at 180,000. Flat 2, which is the ground floor, which was missing the planning one, has now been revalued at 150,000. Now, to give you an idea of value creation here, so flat 1 as an aggregate, I paid 330 for it. So I kind of ballpark divided the 3 flats into 3s. The 2-bedroom at 115 each, and the 1-bedroom at 100. So that gives you 330,000. Right now, flat 1, the big flat, the 2-bed, from 115,000 has been revalued to 180,000. Flat 2, which is the 1-bed, has gone from 100,000 to 150,000. So straight away, you're getting quite an uplift in values here. Okay, I've done the renovations. I've done quite a bit of work in terms of upgrading the actual properties from a EICR electrical certificate, new boiler, plastering, new flooring, all of that stuff, all the renovation stuff. And the expected value for flat 3 as well, now we're expecting it to be, again, 180, up from 115. So working on the assumption that the 3rd one will come in, and I don't see any reason why, because it's the best flat of all 3 of them, and it's got the garden and everything. So assuming that goes through, that will give me a new valuation of 510,000. 180, 150. That works out to be 510,000. That would be a new value creation. Take away from 330,000, that gives me my uplift in value, which is almost £180,000 worth of uplift in 5 months' time. I guess nobody will argue that this is a good return on their money. So what do I do with that now? So what happens next? So those of you who are on my title splitting course and are being mentored by me will know that the idea is you buy the right things at the right price, you do the right process to it, and then you recycle all of your money or as much as possible as soon as possible. So to do that, I'm now going through the process of refinancing. So at a £510,000 new valuation on those 3 blocks, 75% loan to value will get me out £382,500. So in terms of leaving any money out, if you remember, I paid 330 for it. I spent some money to do it up, but I spent about 25,000, 30,000 or something like that. To do it up. So 330 plus 30 is 360,000. I'm gonna now get back a 382,500. So if anything, I'm making £22,500 of pure profit that will come out from these lenders into my bank or into the company's bank to be able to spend as will. If that was you and it was a private ownership thing, you'll be getting this £22,500 out as profit, because you would have created this new value in this block. For me, it would stay into the company, and it will get reinvested. But it's new money and new cash generation, new value you've created. This 25% deposit is coming from the new value that I've created. So the 180,000 is now funding the actual deposit on this block. So that's how I take out all of our money. So the 360,000 comes back straight into the bank, plus the 22,500 as new extra money that I would have made. And more importantly, I keep the block I use the bank's money to actually fund the deposit, or the new value creation to fund the deposit, and in return, what I also get is an infinite return. So infinite return means that because I've left no money on mine in that deal, and it's producing on average £2,000 worth of rent. So by the time you take the mortgages out, let's say it's 1,100 quid, I'm going to make £900 worth of new money in terms of rent roll per month. So times that by 12, you look at a 10 grand return added to the bottom line of the company, which is not a bad, I guess it's not a bad position to be in. So it's 5 months worth of work, 180 grand worth of new value creation in the block. You add 10 grand worth of rent roll on your bottom line, and more importantly, you leave zero money out in the deal. If anything, on this deal, lucky enough to pull almost 25 grand out on top. So all in, it's a great return. I think it's been a really good example to showcase how you can really make some serious return on your cash. You can add to your rent roll, you can increase your portfolio size. So straight away, here, that's another 3 flats that I'm building. The last time I bought a block of 8 flats, so you can easily, quickly start getting your volume of rent roll increase significantly. So hopefully that gives you a good eye into certificate of lawfulness, what the processes are, what the costs are, and then it rolled into title splitting, refinancing, recycling all the cash out, and then having a rent roll, but more importantly, taking all of our money out to invest in the next block. So my name is Azid Ganga. I've been investing in property for the last 21 years. I specialize in I've done most of the stuff. I've done buy-to-let, I've got HMOs, conversions, and now really spent the last 5 years spending a lot of time building and bulking up the portfolio with title splitting. I also coach on a one-to-one a select few people per year. So if you're interested to have a look at those coaching and any kind of material, have a look on my website, www.equityrelease.co.uk. That's QUIDDITY group.co.uk. You can see the coaching programs there. I've also written 2 books that's on Amazon right now. First one is called Scale Your Wealth Through Properties. That's your box standard understanding of how property market works, all the 6 strategies that I use that I recommend people should take a look at. And the second book is very much specifically around title splitting, how it works, what's entailed, and how do you make the numbers work, how do you find these deals and stuff. So take a look at them. They're on Amazon. If you Google my name, you search my name on Amazon, AZIDGUNGAH, they should all come up as well. But in the meanwhile, you can also follow my title splitting group on Facebook, as well as my Instagram page, quiddity_group. I will see you at the next one. I will also be putting this on my YouTube channel, Equity Group channel. So if you have any questions, please post in the comment box and I'll be sure to get back to you. Until the next video, thank you very much. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.